Pretty powerful stuff. The title itself is already so powerful, right? Self-projecting and owning your shit, which is incredible. Tanya's latest book. I'll let her speak a little bit more about it, but I thought the title was very, very on point. Hi, Tanya. How are you?
I'm great. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for being here. So why don't you just tell us a little bit about like how do you got to like this place of like, publishing a book called Owning Your Shit, which I completely love the title.
Well, the concept, how it came about was, I think the main thing is when I was young, I've had a lot of people either really like me or really hate me, and it used to torment me. Like I couldn't sleep at night. I was always wondering, why do people hate me? And then people said, well, you trigger people. I heard all sorts of things like, oh, your brightness just, you know, it's too much for people, or sometimes you are too much. I used to hear a lot of different things, and I would take it so personal, couldn't sleep at night. So when I went on the healing journey, because I have a very big story of like medical, like kidney transplant, abuse, all those things. And I was sick for most of my life, physically and emotionally. And
Wow.
so I started this healing journey after I had my daughter.
Hmm.
And then all of a sudden, I came about the book, The Shadow Effect, and
Yeah.
it talked about projection. And then somebody told me on YouTube there's also a kind of a little video about it, and I was like, what do you mean? If I see so wait, and some people take it very like,
Hmm.
oh, what I see in the world is not a reflection of me.
Yeah.
If I see an abuser, doesn't make me an abuser. So I was like, wait a minute, I need to find out what this means, because I have a deep respect for Deepak Chopra. It was Marianne Williamson, and I really love Debbie Ford. She was real. And I said, okay, I got to find out. So I kind of went on a deep dive. Fast forward many years, started my social media account, and I started talking about it, and I realized it really triggered people. They were like, "No." And it was like really people would get angry and everything. So I was like, "Okay, guys, give me some questions. Let me answer what, because sometimes what we don't understand can
Hmm.
trigger us, and
Hmm.
we don't fully grasp the concept of everybody is a mirror of us." They're like, "No." And it's really confusing. So I said, "Give me some questions." So I started answering them by videos. And then people started asking me, "Well, why don't you write a book about it?" And I was like, okay. So I just went like I had no idea. I had no editor. I had no
Yeah.
publisher. I had no nothing. And I was like, oh, okay, let's see where this goes. And I just kind of went on, and I would go live and ask questions. And I put some of the questions even of some TikTokers and stuff like that. I would put it in the book, answer the question. So that's kind of how the book came out.
Yes.
And it answered pretty much all the questions. Plus, I added quite a bit more.
Yeah, yeah, amazing, amazing. I think what you said is so powerful. It triggers a lot of people, just even the word, right? Self-rejection. And in my journey with physical issues as well, like I said, you mentioned like when you become very sick in your physical body, it gets to a point that you want to kind of reach out for more answers, right? Like you want to reach out to kind of the mental and emotional element of this sickness, right? And for me, it was very much this pivotal point of realizing that when I was diagnosed with cancer, I had been blaming my whole life a lot of other people and a lot of circumstances around me, even like in small things, like people driving slowly in front of you and you're like, what the heck, like why are you driving like so slowly, like I'm and I'm always running late, maybe
Yeah.
because you're always running late. Okay. Like, that kind of a small thing, but of course when you start
Yeah.
becoming quite so in important stuff, the self projection becomes a lot harder. Like why is this person coming into my life, like you say, like why I'm in this
Yeah.
abusive relationship, why I'm attracting these people that are not very nice to me or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And these days, I always face obstacles thinking of what does this situation or this person is trying to teach me. And
Yeah.
sometimes you're like, I don't want to learn this lesson.
Mm. Well, what I mentioned in my book is I say instead of I think the question why is one of the most important questions for knowledge. So if we want to constantly know why, it's important. But I don't think it is productive when you're trying to heal your body and your mind
Mhm.
because you will go down a rabbit hole because we can never fully understand
Yes.
why are there storms in the world? Why is there winter? Why do babies are born with sicknesses? Why are some people rich, some people poor? Why there's wars? Why if we start to go in like the mental health, then we can get caught up. So what I say is instead of saying like, why did I attract this person? You could say, why do I allow things to come into my life?
Yeah.
Instead, because there's more control over allowing, because sometimes there could be like two people in your life and you happen to allow a specific person in your life. Or maybe there's five people and there's one specific person you allowed to come in. That's where self-projection could help you. And we could talk about that, like why people think self-projection is a bad thing
Mm-hmm.
when I think it's an empowering thing.
Yes.
So there's two different sides to that. And by the way, just to self-projection, will explain it for the people who don't understand what self-projection is what you see in others is a reflection of what's happening inside yourself.
Yeah.
So the only thing that is not self-projection is fact. So if I see a tree, it doesn't make me a tree. Now, I always say if you're very spiritual and you think we are all one, I am a tree, I am the bees, I am that's different. But when I say factual, forget like the spiritual side of it, just the science side of it is what you see, what you notice, your feelings. How do I feel about the tree? If I'm going to see an abuser, I'm not an abuser. If I see a narcissist, doesn't make me a narcissist.
Yeah.
How do I feel? What emotion comes up?
Mhm.
That emotion is coming from my body, my mind's triggering a response. So it's me. And we often say, they make me feel like this.
Yes.
And people can physically hurt, but there's a level, there's a balance where we can still say, listen, this person is yelling and screaming, and they'll bring up an emotion, and you could set boundaries. And
Mhm.
we'll talk about that after. There's boundaries. Some people say, well, I could just let anybody treat me any kind of way then. Like if I see things and it's coming from me, that means everybody could treat me. No.
Mhm.
Self-projection is saying, okay, what am I feeling? I'll give you an example. I was just saying this recently. I went outside one morning, just recently. I was in a really bad mood. My dog wasn't doing so well. He's like, a lot of things were happening. And I was like, so I woke up, I went outside and it was rainy and there was a lot of fog outside. And I love rain. I love fog. It's cool. Like I love that. You know, when you're in your home, you're warm and there it's like I love that. But that morning I was like, ah, the rain and I was self-projecting on the weather.
Yeah.
So my perception of the weather, the emotion that I had towards the weather, it was like I was like, "Ugh, what crappy weather." So
Mm.
crappy, I was like, "Oh, it's because 'cause I'm feeling crappy."
Yeah.
So it's just the example of the feeling we have towards, like you said, drivers that cut us off or
Yeah.
drive slow or weather or people, the emotions we have are the self-projections.
I
But
think
there's more after, but we'll talk about that after.
Yeah, I think what you said is so powerful because for the people who are a little bit like me, want to understand everything, like the why, why this, what, and then, I have noticed that you can get into this rabbit hole. And my husband is the first one to say, like, why you stop asking that question? And the power of what you've just said there of going instead of why, but just the changing the word to allowing, it's so empowering, right? Like, because like you said, yeah, look, there is shitty people everywhere, right? Like and there is more good people. I truly believe that, but the allowing is where your power of how you can set the boundaries and how you can change how you feel, that lies on, right? Like when you talk about the allowing is
Yeah.
really really important, right? And I think that's, when people go back to, like, this is, like my fault, or
Yeah.
the universe is not being fair on me, or whatever, the God is not being fair on
Why?
me.
Yeah.
That's not very empowering. But when you go like, wait a second, I am allowing this to happen, but there is something I can do about it, right?
Well, that's what I was just gonna say. So there I believe that I know everybody has different beliefs. Some people believe that we create 100% of our diseases. Um, I don't believe that 100%. I always think there's a gray area. Everything is not just, up or down, black or white, like complete side. I think there's a gray. So I do believe, like, I don't believe children,
Mm,
created their disease or the mother was pregnant and created. So I think sometimes there's just like random with the weather, and the weather affects us. There is a way, let's say for you, and you would understand this. So you had cancer.
yeah,
I was born with a blood disease that attacks the kidneys. If I were to say why,
yeah,
and then I were to use the spiritual thing of, well, it was my mom, or it was, some people have said they go, oh, well, it's your journey here, or you're meant to learn, or all these whys led me down a self shame. Well,
mm,
my fault. It's my mom's fault. It's my dad's fault. It's this fault. It's the universe, God, whatever's fault. In the end, I said, now what?
yeah,
So I didn't allow the disease to come into my body. I was a baby, and even as an adult, you
yeah,
don't allow the cancer to come in. It's sometimes things happen,
hmm,
and we can't control the weather. We can't control things that happen to us, but we can control how we respond to what
hmm,
happens. And I know I've seen that you have mentioned that on some of your videos, on your talking about how you respond and things like that. It's
yeah,
so important to say, now what?
yes, yeah.
What can I do now?
Because I mean, for me, I agree with you, especially when it comes to children. It's yeah, it would be. I don't believe that children create their disease, but I do believe that I created my disease, but I was an adult already, and and I'm very connected to my body now, and then I know the journey, how I was feeling, and how everything started to happening. And I think that one of the reasons why people can't find any cures for cancer itself is because it's a very complex disease, right?
Mm,
And I feel that we got to the same point, right? Also got to that point. Not what you've been blaming people your whole life. You've been angry. You've been holding on to resentment. But now, what are you going to do, or how are you going to
yeah.
respond to this
Do
situation?
you believe that 100% that you created your disease 100% came into your body, or do you believe there is that you created something of it and a little bit was random? Or do you believe 100% you
I
created
believe in
your
my case was 100%. Like I have like zero family history, like in the science side,
Mhm.
like there's zero of that. I know for a fact that I know exactly when the cancer started growing in my body, and I know when my
Okay.
immune system got on top of it, and then I know when I got better because I had the same signs, like the bowel movement stuff, and then we went traveling, less stress, and eating better, exercise, and then I got stressed again, and then my body said no more. And
Okay.
I have a very, very intimate relationship with my body now. And I also know that in my journey in this lifetime, I do believe in God. For me, it was very much like I needed to hit that, I chose to hit that wall so I could,
Yeah.
because I'm very stubborn.
Yeah.
Uh, I, I
You
chose,
had to. Yeah,
yeah,
you
yeah,
had to hit that wall to
like,
get to the other side.
yes, how I responded to everything led me to that, so I could learn to heal myself, so I could be here, helping others to see things from a different perspective.
Yeah.
But I'm not saying that I believe that it's in everybody's case. But I think for me, I do agree. There was no random in my case. There was no random at all.
I like that you feel that there's like a lot of people feel that everybody's like that. I like that you're like everybody's individual.
Yeah.
Everybody has their own experience. Some people a little bit random, some people created it, some people are born with it, some people so there's so many, but I've heard many stories like you of they are so sure and they
Yes.
know when they created it, they know when it happened,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
they're like, "Okay, now I'm ready to heal."
Exactly. And for me, maybe it is that, part of me that wanted to understand why the doctors told me, look, it was random. Like, I'm sorry, like bad luck, and I was like, I don't think so. I'm not, like I don't win lotteries, but don't have this amount of bad luck. I'm gonna find out my own answers. And I think health is not one size fits all. Like I think
Yeah.
everybody's on, their own journey. And I think for me it was very much also, it's not only physical, it's mental and emotional. Right. And I don't know if you found that in your healing journey.
Yeah, I was gonna actually say that one thing for me, that I found mine was both.
Yeah.
There was a part that I created, and
Hmm.
there was a part that I was born with. So
Yeah.
I was born with a blood disease that attacks the kidneys, and it is a genetic
Yeah.
thing, but it was just so, the way it happened so fast, that's what they said was not normal. They said what people who have it's called focal segmental glomerulosclerosis, and they said what happens is usually when you're about 70, 80, then you need a transplant.
Wow.
And I walked in and I'm like 22, 23 years old. Or I got my a biopsy at 16 and they're telling me that, you know, I already knew that I had kidney problems, but the biopsy was like, okay, now you have 50%. And then I got another one. Okay, now you have down low, low, low until when I got pregnant and I was 23 or 24 years old, I was now at 7%. They said that's not normal.
Yeah.
And I knew
Your
when
kidney
I
was
opened up
working.
Louise Hay,
Yeah, so you
the
basically
Louise
your kidney was only functioning at a 70%
both
capacity.
kidneys,
Oh,
7%. I went partly blind. I was 107 pounds at 6 months pregnant. I was like skin and bones. I couldn't eat anything. I couldn't take anything. And they're like, we have to take this baby out of you. I was 7 months pregnant when they got her out. They said to save her and to save you, we need to like separate. So she went in the incubator for about a month.
yeah.
And I was in the hospital for the month. So they would make me visit her and stuff like this. And when I opened the book, this was I got the transplant it was a year after the transplant because after my transplant, I had 5 more surgeries. And it was like by the 4th one, I was like, there's too many things that are happening.
Yeah.
And then my mom was really, really spiritual. She was always into like manifestation and astrology and things like that. And she was like, let's get some books and stuff like this because what's going on, and it's always happening all on your right side, which is involves the male. And she kept saying like the energy, and then she goes, your father, and my father had was alcoholic, drugs. So he was, which he's now clean, sober, is amazing. He went to rehab, but it was like a lot always on this side. So I was like, wait, hold on. So I was born with something, but it's almost that instead of getting the transplant and getting very sick old, I got sick so young because once I opened the Louise Hay, You Can Heal Your Life. I'll always remember that. All the symptoms
The
and
kidneys.
the emotional was like, it was like I accelerated it
Yeah.
because of my emotional reactions. I didn't know how to process emotions. I had no boundaries. I was a people pleaser. I was constantly crying. I was internalizing everything and then exploding on like when I held on too much. And then it
Yeah.
was so unbalanced that I think that, and it was saying kidney, what happens when it's really bad with the kidneys is acting like a kid, almost like tantrums. And I was like, oh, calling
Yeah.
me out. And I remember going, so I started seeing a therapist, psychologist, and I mentioned her in my book. It was life-changing. She was a holistic psychologist and she did hypnosis. Oh, hi, James. Hi, Lynn. Some people already. So, yeah, it was really intense.
Yeah.
And she did hypnosis. She did every Reiki, energy, and
Yeah.
psychotherapy. She was a psychologist. She did everything. And I was so broke. I had no money, single mom, could hardly work. I was still working. And I owned my own business and I was still working. And, I just remember I used to make, I don't know if you're familiar, orgonite. It's like crystal, like it's something that reduces electromagnetic frequency, stuff like this. So I'm
Yeah.
in my 20s and I'm making orgonite and I'm putting the resin. I was doing this at home on a side job. And she goes, you can pay me with orgonite. So I didn't even have to like pay her. So I'd see her every week. Anyways, completely changed. And then all of a sudden, my kidneys, like I got the transplant. I needed the transplant.
Yeah.
It was end fail at 7%, there was no remission. So I got the transplant, and then all of a sudden, they were like, "This is a blood disease. It's gonna come back in your new kidney." For a fact. People who have your disease get 4 to 5 transplants because every 2 years it comes back in the new kidney. And I was like, "Sorry, can I swear on here?"
Yeah.
Okay, I was like, "Fuck you. Fuck that shit." Like, I was sorry, but I was like, "There is no way this is coming back." I went on this healing, and I think people like you and I
Mm.
who have you don't care about money. You don't care about success. You don't care about anything when you're sick. You care about your health. There's one thing you care about. Like
Yeah.
once your health is good, you're like, oh, I want everything else. But
Yeah.
you don't care about anything when you are sick. You are like, I just want to heal. So people who've been really sick,
Yeah.
either physically or emotionally, go down a rabbit hole of healing.
Yeah.
A lot of us do that. That's why we were like us. We want to help people now because they're like, we did it. You can do it. And
You
that's
don't
what
have to,
happened.
even go down as much as we did, like
No,
there's so much you can do before, right?
you could exactly.
Yeah. But I think
So,
what you said is so it just gives me goosebumps when you talk about your dad. And how, it was always on one side. I mean, I truly believe that the body, and you probably read that in some of 𝗕𝗢𝗄𝗧𝗂𝗧𝗧 book. He asked a question. I don't know which book exactly it is, but he said, who do you think is more intelligent, the mind or the body? And you instantly say the mind. And he said, no, it's not. It's the body.
yeah,
And for me, I have experienced so many specific situations where my body was responding to me in a way that was just like, whoa, like this is incredible, like the intelligence. And the body does not forget. And you probably have read as well that things like, I don't know if you had a family history of alcoholism, and it can still pass on to the genes, right?
yeah,
The genetic level, like the imprint, like when we're talking about like, the random, bits, like, or even the genes, could be just the imprint. And I believe that some people, we come here with an imprint. And if that imprint is more, like that you become more a susceptible person to cancer, or, in your
yeah,
case, it was kind of a genetic thing. I do believe that you just need to be more aware. Like in my family, there is like a history of diabetes, which is very much, kind of linked to cancer. Like the inflammation, it's a lifestyle disease, and all of that. It just happened that I had the cancer.
yeah,
So I do think that yeah, like you're saying, like that there was kind of that. It's almost like a shadow as well, like coming, with you, that you needed to clear. But I'm
mhm,
really interested. You said, like, I went to the psychologist and she did all of that. um I can see that she did it, all of it, but I want you to talk about, like, how much of ownership did you take on your day-to-day life, right? Because I do think that a lot of people, they go to
yeah,
places and they think, like, and you would a coach right now, and they go like, okay, well, Tanya, please solve all my problems, like
yeah,
Tanya's gonna
yeah.
just deal with
No,
all my shit,
yeah,
like, and I'm
I
gonna
don't
go
do that.
home, I'm gonna feel better, and I'm gonna healthy and happy,
No.
you know
So on my website, I say coach you to coach yourself.
yeah,
It's written in big on my website. I will coach you to coach yourself
yeah.
because I'm somebody that is so this is the funny part. Oh, some there are 2 different types of people when it comes to, and we all have different parts in our life. Is there are some people that will blame, like, okay, this is because of my mom, this is because of this is because of that. A lot of us do that. I have clients have done that. Then there's other people that are like me who say everything is my fault.
Hmm.
Everything, everybody hates me, it's because of me. I am unlovable. I am this, I am that. And it's both of them are the lack of self-love, self-validation, all that. But sometimes we internalize everything, sometimes we externalize. It's both the same feeling. The same thing with anger, whether some people think that when they're angry and they just walk away, that they're better, they're silent, they walk away, they think it's better, and but that's internalizing it. They're hurting themselves. And they're also hurting the relationship because they're not expressing anything. And the people who yell and scream are hurting the other person. So it's always there's internal, external, but I think there's this healthy balance
Yeah.
of it's okay to if somebody is mean. or somebody's abusive or somebody, it's okay to set boundaries. That's on them. And that's why self-projection is so important, because it's not about all owning your shit.
Yeah.
It's when you own your shit completely, you realize that other people have their shit.
Yeah.
And when they put it on you, you're like, oh, no, no, that's
Yeah.
not my shit. That's your shit. So it's kind of like people think, oh, no, that means if I own my shit, I have to own everybody's shit. No, no, no. That when you own every emotion you have, the reactions that you have, and you find the balance and you empower yourself, now you found that like you are so self-aware.
Yeah.
You are so aware of everything that you know that other people have their stuff. And
Yeah.
when they come and either are mean to you or aggressive or whatever, you're like, no, or they judge you or
Yeah.
criticize you. And you would know you're on social media. When you're on social media, you have to be ready for the meanies, whatever.
Yeah.
And I don't ever take anything of anybody that says personal.
Yeah.
I'll say 99% I don't take personal,
Yeah.
because I know it's their stuff.
Yeah.
What I take personal is because I believe it about myself.
Mm.
So if somebody says something and I go, I'm like, "Oh, that affected me. That
Yeah.
means I believe it about me."
Mm.
So then I own it again. And then I know they're still projecting, and now I have to work on that part of myself. I'll say, "Okay, let me love that part of myself." If they criticize, I don't know, or they say something about my daughter, or and I'm
Yes.
like, and if I get triggered about it, it's because I know I believe it about myself. So it's empowering. It's like people believe that and this is something I get a lot. People are like, "No, I'm an empath. I could sense when people are mean. I know I make assumptions and sometimes I'm right." I'm like, even if you're right,
Yeah.
and this is really hard to hear for some people, even if you're right, the way you feel about the energy of the other person, still, you cannot connect with someone's energy if you don't have that energy within
Yes.
you. So if you walk into a room and you're like, "Oh, it's a negative vibe," maybe there's something negative in you. So instead of pointing the finger, and this is not coming from me, this is, I believe, was Deepak Chopra, or one of the Deepak Chopra
Yeah.
or Debbie Ford said, if you point the finger at other people, where are the other three fingers pointing at?
Yeah.
So when you say I feel the negative energy, they may be negative. You may be right. Actually might be a bunch of like not really great people and they're pretty negative, but it's still you recognizing it. That means there's a negative energy within you. And instead of judging everybody, you could go in and say, wow, that's an awareness of me.
Yeah.
Hmm. Let me give myself some love right now. And then all of a sudden, as an empath, you're empowering your energy. And this is something I wanted to say from the beginning, and I just remembered. You probably will understand this.
Yeah.
There are people who can yell and scream and get emotional reactions and get all wild and crazy, and their body is healthy forever.
Yeah.
And then there's people like you and I who will be like, have a bad day, and then the next day we're like, "Oh, what's happening in my
Yeah.
body?" Our emotions are like this.
Yeah.
Some people's emotions are not. I take it as a blessing.
Yeah.
Because what I see is that people, and I'll give an example, this is my father. My father can have crazy emotional reactions and he'll never get sick. Never get nothing, not even a tooth, nothing, nothing. But as he got older, then it hit him because
Yeah.
everything is like suppressed. And now all these things are coming out. He's starting to get pains everywhere. And
Yeah.
now it's really intensified. And he was never able to learn to connect his emotions with his body like we have, and to say, oh, I'm getting a response. My body's giving me a response. This means I'm not balanced. So
Yeah.
that's the awareness again of ourselves.
I think what you say, I think most people, and I can say that that's the person that I was before cancer, they are so disconnected from their bodies that, this conversation here, it's kind of in another language. And I'm
Yeah.
not saying that because we have this connection, we are better, but it's just that through the experience that we had, we got the opportunity to connect to our bodies, right? If I hadn't had a cancer, I would just be walking around like a zombie, like I was before, completely disconnected from my body. Like I remember the first time that I practiced yoga at home during chemo, the teacher said kind of on the YouTube, just like, ask your body how it is, or, connect your body. And I was like, what is this? You know, is
Ask
this
my
actually,
body.
yeah, this is
Talk
actually,
to it?
I know, I was like, this is just insane. Like I actually I had conditioned myself, and I had learned to live outside of my body, if that's at all possible. I was so disconnected from it. And I think that
Same.
once you
I
start
was the same.
becoming aware, this exercise that you talk about, point one thing and the three fingers, it doesn't become a blame exercise. It becomes an empowering exercise. You don't go into the like, oh, I'm blaming, others, or why me or poor me. You just go, it just becomes a habit, right? You go like,
Yeah.
oh, okay, this is really interesting because I'm feeling this emotion. That this environment or these people have created in me. I'm just going to work through that, and I'm
I
just going
love
to,
that you said that. It's an awareness of me,
yeah,
because, and I actually said that in the book. I say, instead of, because some people say, "Oh, great, now it's because 'cause I'm negative." Like,
yeah,
no, you just go, you could switch it. It's really your response. So you say, "Oh, interesting."
yeah,
The only reason when people get mad, if I see a bunch of negative people, and that is a projection of me because I'm negative, if you think that's a bad thing, that's because you think negative is bad.
yeah,
Like, people think negative is bad. And I'm
yeah,
like, just think of a battery. Do you think the negative side of the battery is bad?
yeah,
No, it takes positive and negative for the energy to circulate through the battery. So, if you experience grief and loss, if you lose someone, it's sad, you feel negative, you're feeling down, you're feeling crying, angry, this, you're feeling all the stages and everything, but that's through the negative. And then you'll have positive times where you'll feel loving, you'll feel okay. And then if you feel those and you let it flow through, you don't judge it. So when you look at people and you say they're negative, mm, interesting. Like you just said,
yeah,
instead of shaming and
yeah.
judging this, you just go, oh, interesting. That's cool about me.
Yeah, I
But
think one of the most powerful things that I have done in my healing journey is just allow myself to sit with my feelings, whatever it is, right? It's not easy. Sometimes you're like, you talk about anger. I had a massive anger addiction. I would respond to everything in an angry manner.
me
And I
too.
had to work through that, had to, just by becoming self-aware. Oh my God, I'm angry again. I mean, I remember there was a day I started laughing. It was like, this is insane. Like, I'm just getting angry again about something that I have zero control of, right? But once you are in that journey of like, this is interesting, I'm willing to sit with my emotion. It doesn't become like this judgment thing, good or bad, good or bad. And also, like I said, life is like that. Like you can't feel happy all the time, because if you felt
Yeah.
happy all the time, you wouldn't know what happy really was.
Yes.
You never felt sad, right? So
Yes.
it's kind of, allowing this kind
Mhm.
of journey of. Have you ever read the book *Untethering Soul* from Michael Singer?
Untethered Soul, yes, I
Yes.
have.
Is
That's,
that
I know, I
it's that kind of work, right? This is kind of going, okay, well, this is really interesting. Like my mind is completely insane. It's going on to places that it's saying some things that are definitely not facts.
yeah, we believe our thoughts.
Yeah, like it's saying
Yeah,
stuff that is completely crazy.
yeah,
And why am I even getting to the conversation of this crazy person inside my head? Like,
right, yeah,
and I think I saw you
exactly.
saying that, talking about that we are not our thoughts, like that this
Yeah,
is and a lot of people with this, this disconnection, is very easy to just stay here because you were
it is.
disconnected from your feelings, right? So it's almost like you're ahead walking.
Well, here's something I just discovered in the last few days.
Yeah.
Um, I used to, and I'm this, so this is gonna be new. Whoever's hears this is gonna be the first time I'm talking about this. There is an interesting fact that I heard, because I always said we are not our thoughts. We are not at all our thoughts. We have to disconnect and stop believing our thoughts. And I've been saying this for a long time, and what I've been doing, and I talk about it in my book, I have a whole even, workbook play like a few pages of how to do this, how to come back to the present, because I used to always live in the future. I
Mhm.
was so scared of the anxiety of the future, and, I did try to end my life twice. I had severe depression in my teenage years, and I lived in the past of, like, hating myself and thinking, "Oh, look all the things I've done wrong." So I never lived in the present, and when I found myself kept redirecting back to the present by using my senses, getting back to the present, and every time I was like, "Okay, I have to use my senses. What do I hear? What do I taste? What do I see?" Because that's what's real now.
Mm.
Not yesterday, not tomorrow. This is what's real. But in the last few days, I had a lot of loss this year, and I lost, my dog,
Mm.
which I'm not gonna go too much in detail because 'cause I'm gonna get emotional, but
Yeah.
I just lost my dog, a couple days ago, and,
Oh, sorry.
thank you. But what I realize is I've been in my thoughts, and
Mm.
I'm literally seeing my thoughts, and they're old memories.
Mm.
I picture his face, and I cry, and I get, like, really the grief, and I realized that's not that bad. It's not a bad thing
Mm.
because I'm tapping into the love that I had. So, I
Mm.
realized there are some thoughts that we can go into,
Mhm.
even though they're like, "Oh, no, they're negative and you shouldn't cry," and I go, "Wait a minute," because I'm going into the thoughts, and
Mm.
I'm sitting with the thought of, feeding my dog little strawberries and I'm seeing all his little face, and I cry, and my heart hurts, and I'm like most people would go, "No, don't do that. Stop. That's negative." And I go, "But if I don't do this,
Yeah.
I will not I
Breathe.
will create a disease
Yes.
in
Yes.
my body in about 5 months from now. I'm gonna be super sick with something
Yeah.
because I'm not processing
Yeah.
the grief." And I go, "So there is a balance of listening and focusing on the thought." So I let myself cry, I let myself feel, and then I validate, and I said, "It's okay to be sad. It's
Yeah.
okay to grieve. It's okay to think about all those thoughts." And then I go, "Okay, now" I give myself, like, a specific time, and I go, "Okay, where am I now? Now I'm here, I'm drinking a tea," and I go,
Yeah.
"Oh, it's peppermint," and then I start tasting, and then I get back to the now. And I think a lot of people forget the back to the now, or some people don't want to live the negative. So, in the last few days, I was like, "I think sometimes it's okay to
Yeah.
believe or to go into your thoughts of, like, memories." Some people are like, "No, no, no, memories." I'm like, "But sometimes memories are nice."
Yeah, I mean, what you said is so important. Like, grief is a massive thing. If you don't allow yourself to properly grieve now, the body will keep this score, and
They'll
your
store it somewhere.
your what's happening with your dad is there, isn't it? Like the body keeps this score. People are going around thinking they're gonna be okay, without feeling their feelings, getting stressed all the time, not allowing, the emotions and all of that. But at some point they're gonna hit a wall, like that's guaranteed because the body will keep this score up. There is a book as well. I don't know if you read that book. It's an amazing book. The body keeps this score.
Oh, I
Uh,
didn't know, I didn't.
yeah, I'll send you. It's very good. And and it talks about different modalities that we can practice to literally release that,
Yes.
the energy that gets
The
trapped.
physical I've been doing that too at the same time.
Yeah,
I cry. After a big cry, I validate, and then I literally either dance or I open my legs a certain way, and you can see those on YouTube and everything. I put my hands up, I do the shaking, I like
yeah,
the animals when
yeah.
they're
I
to
know,
release the
I know.
trauma. It's so and it's I think it's a lot of people that have lived that. We don't I don't mind being sick. Like, I thought about it, I was like, some people ask me, "What if the disease come back in the new kidney?" Then I'm like, then that's the journey. I realized before I used
Yeah,
to
living fear.
try it, I was like, "I can't get sick again," and I'm like, "It's okay to be sick because it's a downtime." I'm gonna be honest, I enjoy it a little bit. Sometimes getting a cold's people like, "Nope, I don't hate getting sick, I hate getting a cold." I'm like, "I like it. I get to relax." Yeah, I don't feel that good in my sinuses, but I'm like, you know, people around you are like, "Oh, you're sick, I'll leave you alone." I'm like, "Oh, so I read a
Yeah.
book." So it's like I I I get to downtime, so I don't judge that either, but I don't wanna be as sick. Like, you would
Yeah.
understand that, you know, like the cancers or the kidney disease. Like, I don't mind getting sick, but I don't want the extreme, so like, we process it together, and I do believe self-awareness is a huge part of healing, and Wilo here, because she wrote that it was in my book, "It's not about being perfect, it's about being aware,"
Yes. That's it.
and
That's so
that's
powerful.
yeah.
That is so powerful. Like, it's really not about being perfect, right? Like, my son had a sore throat this week, and yesterday, I get him to, or get my kids to sleep with me when they're sick. So he's already 11, but, and then yesterday I kind of felt on my throat. So I just go through the motions of doing what I need to do, like a little gargle with vinegar and salt, taking it easy a little bit more. And, I didn't do my exercise in the morning. I just took it easy. Just eating more, kind of drinking juices, going to bed early. This
Greens,
morning I
yeah.
woke up and, the sore throat was gone already, but I just had it in my nose and I thought, you know what, I think I need to do a yoga. I did a gentle yoga. And I laid on my chaki mat and then it was gone.
Yeah.
Like, it's
You
incredible.
accepted that
Yeah, the
you
power.
accept, but you help.
Yes,
Balance
exactly.
of both. Yeah.
I was telling a friend of mine, about it. I get cold sores here all the time. It's always on the same spot. And the last time I got a cold sore, I'd always think like, oh my God, why am I getting a cold sore? And then I would get pain all over my face, and it's, really intense. And so this time I felt it in the night and I thought, oh, and then I just kind of instantly I thought, oh, I'm so sorry. I kind of
Yeah.
said sorry to the cold sore in a way. And I thought, I know I've been really stressed and I'm sorry. And all of a
Your
sudden,
body.
the
Yeah.
pain, it was gone.
Oh, wow.
The cold sore did, because normally comes like the red, it didn't come out.
Okay. So
I was,
just
I just could not believe it. I was like, so I was like, "Oh my God," and I kept reinforcing, "I'm really sorry,
more
I'm really stressed, I'm sorry that I, just got down the rabbit hole again." And I kept saying this, and the cold sore just went away.
that's
It
amazing.
never kind
I
of,
love that.
went like completely like, yellow and all of that. I was just like, it was and I put a little bit of aloe vera as well.
Yeah.
It's incredible how when it's definitely not about
When
being
you
perfect.
accept.
I still get stressed, I still, things go on. I still manage my emotions in a way that perhaps, is not the best, or
Yeah.
just being aware of it, right?
Yeah, and really, I think I love what you said is I think what it is when we're sick, a lot of us get mad that we're sick, and
Mm,
we're not kind to ourselves when we're sick, and then almost it makes it worse.
yeah,
It's like sickness is already crappy. It
yeah,
sucks to be sick. We know it. Everything that makes us uncomfortable sucks.
yeah,
It's not, "Oh, this is great." No, it sucks. But if you're saying, "Yeah, it sucks, but I'm just gonna stay with me, and I'm just gonna," and then you treat that as like an extra self-care, and like you say, "I'm sorry, and I love you." Like, instead of saying, "Oh, great, I'm sick again, now," da, da," and it's like you're already crappy, and now you're gonna add extra crappiness. It's like and then it prolongs. I always notice that my sicknesses don't go when I'm not in a state of self-love and validating my sickness and saying, "Well, this is what it is," it always, like, lasts longer.
yeah. That's once when I was diagnosed with cancer, I had one of the guys from work, and he's very young, like he's in his 20s. He came to visit me. I was 38, and he said to me, he looked at me and said, "Angelica, do you think your body um, like failed you, like betrayed you? Like, if, did your body kind of, it's kind of was your body's fault, like you didn't see this coming." And, I just remember feeling a feeling of being so empowered to answer that question. And I just said, you know what? Not really. I failed my body. I abused my body for 38 years. I binge drank. I ate unhealthy food. I got stressed to the bone. I was angry to the bone. I held on to resentment. in actual fact, my body did a lot for me because the body encapsulates
Wow.
that cancer and it didn't let that cancer spread any further than just my lymph nodes. My body did amazing.
Yeah.
Like, we live in a world that we think that it's okay to abuse our bodies,
Yeah.
and it's
But
so
you know
sad.
what? I love that you said that because recently I've been getting a lot of comments on social media about me, and I know people are very affected by the war and they're extra triggered recently because of all the stuff that's happening in the pandemic. There's like too many things. But a lot of people are talking about victim blaming.
Mm,
And what you did, people will see that as victim blaming. But instead, to me, I see it as empowering. I
yeah,
see it as you saying, no, but you were unaware. Obviously, you were unaware, and the cancer made you aware to treat your body well. But I think that's empowering. Like I hear your story. That to me, that's amazing that you could say, no, my body didn't fail me. I failed my body. That's deep because people will say, no, 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 that's you're blaming yourself. No, there's such a fine line. Blaming yourself means it's my fault.
yeah,
There's no solution. But if it's your fault, let's say, or
yeah,
your instead of saying your fault, it's your responsibility.
yeah,
How and this is not my words, this is Sadhguru, he says, "How is your ability to respond
yeah,
now? What are you gonna do now?" So if you created this, you can also fix or help it or love it.
yeah.
I love that
And
you
this
that
is
just
why my
happened.
book is called Radical Ownership because
It's just you know what? Your book's it's a kinder title.
yeah,
Radical ownership. Man, it's like, own your shit. But it's
because
pretty much the same thing.
it's the same thing. For me, it was very
Yeah,
much, yeah, it was my responsibility. I needed to take radical. I mean, I had stage 3B bowel cancer, had spread to my lymph nodes. What else did I need to
wow.
wake up, like to wake
Yeah,
up? My kids were 6 and 4. I speak to so many people that even after a diagnosis like that, they don't wake up.
yeah,
If
yeah,
you have to kind of come to a place to going, okay, now how I'm going to respond to this, and this is why I really don't like the words
yeah.
fighting cancer, because when
Yes,
I got cancer, I was tired of fighting life. I was actually exhausted, and as soon
yeah,
as I heard this, and I was like, no, that's not for me anymore. I am going to embrace cancer.
yes,
I embraced cancer with my both arms, and it was um, probably one of the most special moments of my entire life, the chemotherapy treatment, because I was at home a lot by myself because I had to self quarantine, and I got to spend that time with me, getting to know who I was for the first time.
wow. You
You know,
found the gratitude
Yes, the
in
gratitude,
it.
going, the connection with my body, the understanding of like the self-awareness of like, oh my God, I've been angry for so long, like this is sad,
Yeah,
but it's my response. I chose that path, but now I
yeah,
can choose different.
yeah, yeah,
And I
and
think
you
that's
can
so
choose.
important, that moment that you choose different, and then you probably have lived this through. Nobody
Yeah.
can do that work for you, right?
No, they can help, but that's the thing. Nobody can do the work, but I see the same as, like, listen, I brush my teeth every day, but I do need to go to the dentist once in a
Yes.
while to get, like, the cavity or to help me do that big cleaning, and I that's why I think that it's important, like, as what you do with your work is that you'll help people on that, self-healing journey, help connect to their bodies, help to it's like sometimes you need so it's but, like, they need you. Let's say somebody comes and sees you, says, "I need you." You're like, "Yes, I can guide you."
Yes.
But in the end, we have to do the work. No amount of crystals or sage can help and save our
See,
emotions.
sitting in a cave naked humming,
Yeah.
it's not gonna
You need to
I
do the emotional yeah.
yes, I agree. And I think we live in a world that we believe that we need to have all the answers figured out. On the other side of that, I got a lot of help in my journey too. And you did as well, as you mentioned. And we all get stuck.
Yeah,
We all get stuck in things that we don't completely fully understand or completely know how to do it.
yeah.
And reaching out for help is probably one of the hardest things, right? Um,
Yes and no.
Okay.
I reached out for help yesterday. There is something I said, I've lost quite a few people all in a few months, and my dog was like that little cherry on top, and I was like, "I need help.
Yeah.
I need" so I reached out to a grief counselor, I got books on grief, and I am actually not at all some people are like a lot of coaches don't wanna talk about, like, because 'cause
Yes.
they're coaching, and I have friends that are coaches that will never say that they need help. They're like, "I processed it by myself." I'm like, "That's lonely."
Yeah.
At one point last year, 90% of my clients were doctors. I made a video about it. Doctors, psychologists, psychiatrists. I still have psychiatrists, psychotherapists, and some ER doctors. And they tell me, like, "Don't say anything that I'm coming, we don't." I said, "I won't say I'll say that there's doctors that I have clients. I'm not gonna share who or whatever. That's ridiculous." But I love that everybody we're all human, and we
Yes.
all like you said, we ha it's okay oh, I'm spitting here. It's okay that we need help. It's and I reached out yesterday, and I have to tell you, in one day, I felt, like, so much better
Yes. I
because
think
we needed that dentist.
yes. You're gonna find this really interesting. I don't know if you have ever watched a video of Dr. Gabor Mate
Yes.
talking about an experience he had. He organizes this retreat in the
Oh,
Amazon
I didn't
forest
see
with
that.
shamans, and
Okay.
only doctors and psychologists and only health professionals were there, and they were in a circle just about to receive their, the ayahuasca, kind of the medicine that they needed to take. And the shamans came in and said to him, "Oh, sorry, we've got to speak to you. Can you just come to the side? You can't take the medicine." And he's like, what do you mean? And he's like, "Look, you have such a negative energy that inside you that you haven't been clearing, that if we allow you to be part of this ceremony, you're not only going to pass your negative energy to others, but you're also going to take on all their negative energy." And then the
Oh,
shamans went on and said to all the health professionals, like, "What are you guys doing? You are not clearing your energy. How do you actually clear this energy?" And that really, really resonated with
I didn't
me.
see that. I'm gonna check that out.
Yes,
I'm
I
gonna
I'll
look at
I'll see if I can find it. I'll send it to you. That was really interesting because, especially with everything that, the doctors and health professionals went through during the pandemic, there was so much burnout, so many health professionals leaving,
yeah,
the industry because, like, I
yeah.
can't do this anymore. And
Or I'm getting a lot of health professionals, psychiatrists, psychologists, ER doctors that get cancer. And
mm,
when they get cancer, they're
oh,
like, "Whoa, wait a minute." And the emotions hit.
yeah,
And that has been an experience for me, for my clients that have been getting sick.
mm,
Not just cancers, have been getting other diseases and things like that. And it's like the emotions are
yeah,
overwhelming, and they're very good at training people how to do it. But then when it comes to them, they're like, "Mm."
yeah,
And like you and I would understand is when you go through it,
yeah,
you don't fully grasp something until you go through it. You can have like, if I don't know about, I don't know about, let's say, losing a parent or losing a child. I've never lost, so I could have compassion for someone. I could be
like,
like, but I don't fully
yeah,
grasp it. So because you've lived a disease, because I've lived a disease, we've gone through that and we've done the emotions. Once you have the experience, you're like, "Oh, come here. Well, let's talk."
yeah. And when you talk about that, that makes sense because cancer is a disease. I believe is a disease of the soul, and this is why they
Oh,
can't find a cure. Like it's such a complex disease. I mean, in the Heal Your Life book of Louise Hay, she talked about, for example, mind, bowel cancer. It's cancer is when is deep hurt, right? Like the cancer one that she talks about is deep hurt, but the bowel specifically is holding on to your shit, right?
yeah.
Hello,
Yeah,
right?
that's gross if you think
I know.
about
Yeah.
it.
So that's exactly what I did. So, you can just read that and go, "Oh, yeah, that's not me. No,
Let
no,
me
that
let go of
is me."
that.
Yeah. you know, and you have to kind of start, realizing that, and I can imagine that doctors had to disconnect so much from their own emotions
Yes.
during the whole pandemic because you almost couldn't be human, and going through all of that. At some point, the body keeps this score, And,
Yeah.
as much as science is there for them in the cancer world, the science does explain very little when it comes to cancer.
Starting now.
Yeah.
Starting the emotions connected to
Yeah,
it's
that's good. Yeah, but I'm just talking
starting.
about like just plain science. Like, why do you get cancer? I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So,
Mm.
so that is amazing. I mean, I just want, we could speak for hours and maybe we should
Yeah.
do another one of those. Like, this is so amazing. Just tell, everyone how they can reach out to you, how they can work with you, the things that you can help them with. I'd love you to share that with everybody as well.
Okay. So when it comes to my specialty is self-projection, working on how to like um how to self-reflect, how to ask yourself those questions and how to be comfortable in owning your shit. And what it is in my book, actually I brought my book here.
Yeah.
In my book, there's 4 types of self-projection and this is something that I not in I guess I could say invented. I didn't invent, but I categorized them and I my fiance and I invented the names for the categories because I looked online, I did research, I went to see psychologists, 2
Yeah.
psychologists, they had no idea about this. So I said I put it in 4 categories, which is a little bit easier on people that want to understand self-projection. So there are 4 types. I say how to distinguish the 4 types.
Hmm.
One type we do all the time, things like that. So if ever I do self projection work. So, and that's on TanyaBeautyCoach.com. I have,
Or at the details.
okay, we'll add the details yet. So it's just my name, TanyaBeautyCoach.com, and I have all that information. Um, I also do boundary work and I do something also that I have in my book I call time travel reparenting. And it's where you go into the future because everybody does inner child work. There's so much
Mhm.
inner child work. And I explain in my book how I came about this time travel reparenting. It was by accident in a meditation that I accessed my older self
Wow.
to do some healing. So what I do is on my YouTube page, I have meditations for time travel reparenting. You go into the future, you meet your older self, a version of your older self that is so proud of you, that has a healthy body, that
Mm.
has the success, the validation, the love, and they are proud of you now. And they're like, you got this. Because a lot of us were not validated when we were children, or we were saying, go to your room, you're not allowed to listen. It was, our parents didn't have the information they have now. So it was like, you have no say, you have no voice. So all of a sudden, we're not allowed. So again, we become implosive, explosive. There's no validation. So what it is basically your older self helping you, becoming your best friend. So I do that. I talk about that in the book around the end, just to like how to connect with, like, become your best friend, stuff
Yeah.
like that. So all the information about me and everything is on TanyaBeautyCoach.com on how to book appointments with me. But I tell people all the time, I wish that I didn't have to, like, if people wanna meet me one-on-one, because everybody has a specific story, but you don't need to book one-on-one with me. I have YouTube, all everything I say in my clients in my workshop is either in my book,
Yeah.
on YouTube, or on my TikTok or Facebook or videos.
Oh, yeah, a book as well, right? Like they can get your book in Amazon and yeah.
Yeah, I have Amazon, but again, all the links worldwide are all on my website.
Amazing.
So, all the Amazon so my it's just, oh, somebody said yeah, Yesenia wrote, available on Amazon, Barnes& and Nobles, and
Yeah,
Chapters
that's it.
Indigo. Thank you. So,
Somebody who knows
that's
a
pretty
little bit
much
more
it
than
is.
you, that's been following you for a long time.
Yeah. This is a friend of mine too, so thanks for the support, guys. So,
Oh,
yeah,
man.
it's just TanyaBeautyCoach.com. All my information is on there. All my links to everything. So, to me, it's like, if I could give all this information for free forever,
Yeah.
I would. But the book, obviously, Amazon takes a cut, stuff like that. You would know that it's like there's so to me, it's, endless abundance of information. So I just want to me, if I could do it, I feel like it's a possibility. You don't have to do it. You don't have
Yeah.
to do the healing, but if you're willing, you're like, "I'm stuck.
Yeah.
Something's not," you know? And I love that our books are connected. I could link your book on my website too. Like, I love that your book is The Radical Ownership too. I'm gonna get a copy myself.
Yes, I'm
And I
gonna.
saw that yesterday. I was like, "Oh, radical." I was like, "That's a nicer way of saying own your shit."
Awesome.
Yeah.
So I'll add the details. Thank you so much, guys, for watching. It's been incredible. Thank you so much,
Thank
Tanya,
you
for
for having
all
me.
your teachings, like your guidance here. I think it's, what you're teaching, keep doing this amazing work. It's invaluable to the world, especially right now. So many people need to empower themselves and believe that they can achieve that feeling of, acceptance and being aware and being okay with it.
Yeah, agreed. Thank you so much for having me. I
Thank you.
appreciate you.